Something massive just happened in the US auto market. And if you've been holding out on buying a new vehicle, your patience may have just paid off. Jeep and Ram, two of America's most iconic, rugged, all-terrain vehicle brands, have detonated a pricing bomb that's sending shockwaves through dealerships nationwide. We're not talking about minor markdowns. We're talking about prices slashed by up to 50%. Half off. That's not a sale. That's a revolution. In a market where interest rates are sky high, monthly payments are crushing, and inventory is starting to pile up like never before, Jeep and Ram made a choice that no one saw coming. They didn't just discount one or two models. They're cutting deep across the board. Wranglers, Gladiators, Ram 1500s, you name it, and it's likely getting a price tag you wouldn't believe even a year ago. Some trims are now priced lower than they were 5 years ago, even with inflation still kicking hard. This isn't just some summer clearance event. This is a desperate counterstrike in a battle for survival. Why? Because dealers are overloaded. The lots are flooded. And consumers? They're cautious, scared, and fed up with sky-high prices and auto loans stretching over 84 months. So what do you do when your inventory is rotting on asphalt? You cut prices. Aggressively. But here's the twist. Jeep and Ram didn't do this out of charity. Stellantis, the parent company behind both brands, is feeling the pressure. Their sales have been slipping, their market share shrinking. Ford and GM are gaining ground, and now foreign automakers like Toyota and Hyundai are threatening their dominance in the truck and SUV segments. And don't even get started on the electric vehicle war. With EV adoption climbing and Tesla slicing prices like a butcher, Stellantis had to act fast and bold. The numbers are staggering. Ram 1,500 trucks that once pushed $60,000 are now being listed for under $35,000 at some dealerships. Jeep Gladiators, once untouchable at $50,000, are dipping below $30,000 with rebates, loyalty discounts, and dealer incentives stacked together. The deals are so aggressive that some industry insiders are calling it a fire sale, because this kind of pricing burns through profit margins like gasoline on a bonfire. But there's another side to this story that's even more jaw-dropping. This may not be just about moving metal. Stellantis may be clearing the decks for something much bigger. Insiders are whispering that Jeep and Ram are preparing for a massive wave of next-generation vehicles, and they need current inventory gone. That includes refreshed gas-powered models and upcoming plug-in hybrids and full EVs that Stellantis promised to deliver under its multi-billion-dollar electrification strategy. And then there's the dealer side of things. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Many overordered during the pandemic-era demand boom, thinking the buying frenzy would never end. Now, they're sitting on 90 to 120 days of unsold inventory. Floor plan financing costs are eating into profits, and the only way out is to move product fast. That's why you're seeing unheard-of discounts, trade-in bonuses, 0% APR deals, and even some dealers throwing in free maintenance for a year just to sweeten the pot. What makes this even crazier is that this pricing bloodbath is happening in the middle of a broader industry collapse. Auto loan delinquencies are rising. Repossessions are ticking up. The average new car price is still hovering above $47,000, but nobody wants to pay that anymore. Consumers are pushing back, and Jeep and Ram just became the first big players to blink. And now, the dominoes are about to fall. Ford is watching. Chevy is watching. Toyota is watching. Because if these 50% price cuts succeed, if they clear lots and jumpstart demand, every other automaker will be forced to respond. The pricing war that automakers hope to avoid may have just started with a bang. And there's something else brewing in the background that adds even more urgency. UAW contract negotiations are tightening margins. Raw material costs are fluctuating. And the threat of Chinese EV imports, priced far lower than their American rivals, is getting very real. Stellantis didn't just drop prices. They're sending a message: adapt or die. But what does this mean for buyers? In one word, opportunity. If you've been on the fence about upgrading your vehicle, this might be your window. This isn't just a discount. It's a shift in the power dynamic. For the first time in years, the customer is back in the driver's seat, and the automakers are scrambling to keep up. For months, customers have been sidelined by sticker shock. Dealer markups, endless add-ons, sky-high interest rates. It all made new car buying feel like a luxury reserved for the top 10%. But now, with Jeep and Ram rolling out these jaw-dropping 50% cuts, the balance is shifting. Suddenly, that fully loaded Ram 1500 with the Hemi you dreamed of doesn't feel like a fantasy anymore. That trail-ready Jeep Wrangler Rubicon? It might finally fit your budget without breaking your back in monthly payments. And this isn't just a price game. It's about perception. Stellantis is redefining what value looks like in a market that's been suffocating under inflated prices and bloated inventories. These are real trucks, real SUVs. No corners cut. Same engines, same capability, but with price tags slashed to levels we haven't seen in nearly a decade. This is exactly the kind of bold, unapologetic move that forces the entire auto industry to rethink its strategy. And here's what's really wild. The used car market is starting to feel the shockwaves too. Prices of used Ram trucks and Jeep SUVs are starting to dip fast. Why? Because nobody's going to pay $40,000 for a 2-year-old Ram when they can get a brand new one with full warranty and the latest tech for nearly the same price, or even less. This is squeezing used car dealerships and dragging wholesale auction values down across the board. And that ripple effect, it's only just beginning. Banks and lenders are watching closely. They're nervous. Vehicles that were bought a year or two ago at inflated prices are suddenly worth thousands less on the open market. That means more upside-down loans, more defaults, more repossessions. Jeep and Ram's move, while great for buyers today, could set off a financial shock in the subprime auto lending world. But again, Stellantis isn't thinking about next year. They're focused on survival today. And don't forget what's looming just over the horizon, the 2025 lineup. Stellantis knows that if they don't clear out the old now, they'll be stuck in a jam come next quarter. We're talking about plug-in hybrid Rams, a fully electric Jeep Recon, and more. These aren't whispers anymore. They're confirmed products with internal targets and massive investment behind them. But to make space for the future, they have to unload the past. And that means rock-bottom pricing today. This isn't just a pricing strategy. It's a full-blown market reset, one that could shift how vehicles are priced, sold, and financed in the U.S. going forward. And now, all eyes are on the competition. Will Ford/F-150 prices next? Will Chevy follow suit on the Silverado? And what about Toyota, who's been slow to drop prices but dominant in loyalty? The floodgates are open, and Jeep and Ram just dare the rest of the auto industry to follow them into the storm. And the question is, who's bold enough to jump in next? Because this isn't a temporary clearance sale. This is a warning shot, a declaration that the old way of doing business, jacking up prices, leaning on dealer markups, forcing customers into 6- and 7-year loans, is collapsing under its own weight. Jeep and Ram know the winds have shifted. They're not just responding to market conditions, they're trying to control them. And in doing so, they've put everyone else on notice. The impact on the dealership ecosystem is already palpable. Some dealers are celebrating the move, thrilled that they can finally get traffic back through the door. Showrooms that were ghost towns just weeks ago are seeing a surge of buyers, real customers ready to write checks or sign papers. Others, however, are panicking because those dealers bought their inventory at peak pricing. Now, they're forced to sell below cost just to stay competitive. For them, this pricing slash isn't a blessing. It's a financial gut punch. And behind the scenes, automaker boardrooms are in chaos. You can bet every executive at Ford, GM, Toyota, and Honda is running the numbers, comparing margin losses to market share erosion. Stellantis may have made the first move, but if this gamble pays off, if they regain momentum and drive serious volume through this aggressive strategy, it's going to trigger a full-scale industry price war. And in that war, it's the consumer who wins for now. Meanwhile, buyers who just purchased at full price a few months ago are left stunned. Imagine spending $62,000 on a new Ram Laramie only to find it selling for $39,000 today. The frustration is real, and lawsuits might not be far behind. But that's the nature of a volatile market. And Stellantis seems more concerned with resetting the board than preserving anyone's resale value. Let's not forget the lease market, either. These massive discounts are shifting leasing math overnight. Monthly payments are dropping like a rock. What used to be $800 a month for a loaded Wrangler is now dipping into the $400s, and that's without a hefty down payment. Leasing, once written off as overpriced and inflexible, is suddenly back in play for average Americans. This is also starting to bleed into commercial sales. Ram's fleet deals for contractors, construction firms, and municipal buyers are getting supercharged. In some regions, fleet buyers are scooping up trucks in bulk at nearly half what they paid just 2 years ago. That's going to ripple into local economies fast, because when businesses save on vehicles, they reinvest in other places, hiring, equipment expansion. And then there's the psychological effect. Americans haven't seen 50% off on new vehicles in decades, if ever. These kinds of numbers change perception. They build urgency. They make people act. The sense that this is a once-in-a-generation buying window is spreading fast. Social media is flooded with buyers showing off their deals. Forums are lighting up. TikTok influencers are walking dealership lots saying, "You're not going to believe this deal." But underneath all that excitement, there's one looming question that no one's answering yet. How long can this last? Because at the end of the day, this isn't sustainable. Stellantis is taking a brutal hit to its profit margins to make this happen. You don't slash vehicle prices by 50% and walk away unscathed. This is a calculated risk, one that could backfire if volume doesn't spike fast enough. And if this aggressive pricing doesn't translate into long-term customer loyalty, Jeep and Ram could be looking at a short-lived victory followed by a long road of recovery. Suppliers are watching nervously too. Lower sticker prices often mean tighter margins all the way down the chain. If Stellantis starts pressuring suppliers for cost reductions to compensate, that could ripple into layoffs, plant slowdowns, and production bottlenecks across the US and Mexico. This price war might start in the showroom, but it could end up echoing across the entire North American manufacturing landscape. And let's talk about trade-ins because they're getting crushed. The moment you drive a 2023 Ram off the lot today, its value just took a nosedive thanks to these new price tags on the 2024 models. Dealers are lowballing trade-in offers like never before, trying to hedge their losses. It's great for first-time buyers, sure, but for anyone trying to trade up or flip their current vehicle, the numbers just don't add up anymore. That's creating frustration and confusion for people who thought they were making smart automotive investments. Suddenly, the value of their current Jeep or Ram has dropped overnight, and the equity they were counting on? Gone. Just like that. And it's pushing more buyers into holding on to their old vehicles longer or accepting deep negative equity just to get into a newer one. Financing is shifting too. Lenders are tightening up. They're not stupid. They see what's happening. When prices drop this fast, loan-to-value ratios go haywire. Banks don't want to be left holding the bag if a buyer defaults on a vehicle that's worth far less than the loan attached to it. Expect higher credit standards, more rejections, and tougher terms moving forward, even as the MSRP drops. But despite all this, one truth remains. Jeep and Ram have completely changed the game. Whether this is a bold, brilliant play or a panic move made under pressure, it's having a massive, immediate effect. Buyers are showing up, dealers are moving inventory, and the rest of the auto industry is scrambling to figure out their next move. Every day, this pricing strategy continues. It chips away at the old rules of car buying. It sends a message to consumers that high prices aren't permanent, that even the biggest automakers can be pushed to the edge, and that maybe, just maybe, customers finally have the leverage again. Now, if Stellantis can maintain momentum, we might see a new standard set, one where American-built trucks and SUVs don't have to cost as much as a small house. But if this backfires, if they can't balance volume with losses, if loyalty tanks after the fire sale ends, then this whole pricing bombshell could go from being a masterstroke to a meltdown in slow motion. And that's exactly what's keeping the rest of the industry on edge. Because if Jeep and Ram can't make this work, if they've just trained consumers to expect deep discounts without a plan to stabilize, it could unravel the already fragile pricing structure that's been holding the US auto market together. Other automakers, especially those who've resisted discounting to protect brand value, like Toyota and Honda, may suddenly find themselves forced into a corner. Either they join the race to the bottom or risk losing market share by the day. And let's not forget about the ripple effect internationally. Stellantis isn't just playing in the US market, they've got global stakes. If this price slashing spreads to Canada, Europe, or Latin America, the implications could be massive. Foreign competitors like BYD and MG, who are already undercutting legacy brands in overseas markets, will seize the moment. They'll say, see, even the big guys in America are panicking. It could validate China's aggressive EV pricing model and accelerate the global shift to more affordable, lower-margin vehicles. At the same time, labor unions are watching closely. UAW and other organized labor groups are fully aware that slashed vehicle prices often translate into production slowdowns and restructuring behind the scenes. If Stellantis starts tightening up operations to protect margins, that could bring another wave of job cuts, plant closures, or aggressive contract renegotiations. What looks like a consumer win today could become a labor flashpoint tomorrow. But none of that matters to the average buyer right now. What matters is that they can finally walk into a dealership and negotiate from a position of strength. What matters is that families who've been priced out for years can finally get their hands on a capable, brand new truck or SUV without sinking into financial quicksand. And it's not just about affordability, it's about access. Jeep and Ram have always symbolized rugged independence and American freedom. Now, they're becoming attainable again. This move brings those iconic vehicles back into the hands of the very people who built their legacy. Working-class Americans, small business owners, adventurers, and loyalists who've been pushed to the sidelines by absurd pricing over the past few years. Still, the million-dollar question remains, what happens when the dust settles? Because this can't go on forever. The discounts, the fire sales, the slashed MSRPs, they're all part of a short-term shock strategy. And when the current inventory is cleared, when the new wave of electrified Jeeps and Rams hit the market with fresh tech and fresh price tags, will the buyers still be there? Or will the expectation of deep discounts make full-price launches nearly impossible? Even now, some analysts are warning of a coming whiplash. If Jeep and Ram rebound too hard, if prices jump back up overnight, it could alienate the very buyers they're pulling in today. People don't forget pricing betrayal. If you train them to expect 50% off, they won't just accept full MSRP again without a fight. So Stellantis is walking a tightrope here between bold innovation and financial disaster, between short-term volume and long-term trust, between being seen as a hero to struggling buyers and being blamed for destabilizing an entire industry segment. And that's the paradox Stellantis now faces. Jeep and Ram have cracked open a door that can't be easily shut. By slashing prices so dramatically, they've not only re-energized the market, they've reset expectations. They've drawn a line in the sand and dared everyone, consumers, competitors, and critics, to cross it. But what comes next will define more than just quarterly sales figures. If this gamble works, Jeep and Ram could emerge as the bold champions of a new era, one where value, not markup, drives sales. One where loyalty is earned through fairness, not flashy ads or empty promises. One where the American working class can finally afford the vehicles built in their own backyards. If it fails, it could mark the beginning of a slow bleed for Stellantis. A loss of pricing power, a collapse of profit margins, a hard lesson in how quickly trust evaporates when customers feel like pawns in a game of market chess. For now, though, one thing is absolutely clear. Jeep and Ram just turned the entire U.S. auto market on its head. And whether you're a buyer, a dealer, or a rival automaker, you're feeling the tremors. The question isn't whether this move made an impact. It's how long that impact will last, and who's brave enough to strike next. Thanks for watching. If you found this update as shocking as we did, hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more breakdowns of the auto industry's biggest shakeups. This ride is just getting started.